One of my biggest in life, I really struggled with alcohol. And at first it came from a place of like, I get attention when I do this. I'm fun. I'm exciting. Like people think I'm hilarious when I drink. And so it was really that seeking of attention and validation from other people. And it turned into like, the more I drank, the more mistakes I made.
Is there a specific trigger or like a specific event that made you look at your drinking and you were like, okay, I should really analyze this?
I was hit by a car.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there you go.
Jeez.
That was a huge one. I was really, really drunk. And I looked at that event like that was the closest to death I've ever been. And it was really like, I'm ready for the other side of this. And this feels like rock bottom. So.
And that's the world kind of nudging you.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Hey, time to do something different.
Welcome to the I Didn't Know What the Fuck I Was Doing podcast.
We're your hosts, Teresa
and David.
This is the podcast with two ADHD entrepreneurs
who've made a lot of mistakes.
Each week, we discuss ways to navigate business, relationships, and health.
We also interview excellent guests who share their own personal IDKWTF stories.
Listen today so you can hear some relatable content
as we normalize uncertainty and obstacles.
Because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the IDKWTF I Was Doing a podcast. I am David B.
And I'm Teresa Merrick. And we are here in part 2 with Faith Lee. We've been learning all about Faith and her journey through life. And it has been amazing chatting. And now we want to know, so we're getting to the juicy part where we want to know, Faith, tell us about like your biggest mistakes or failures, something where like you've really had to overcome and that has gotten you to where you're at now.
Real quick, what's really interesting, I think everyone has that hero's journey where they have this call to adventure and there's these ups and downs and twists and turns. And I think it's been a really cool story that you've shared about your personal journey so far. So I'm curious to hear some of the struggles and some of the setbacks that you've had as well.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for setting it up that way.
Like an epic.
Yeah, that sounds pretty epic.
I love it. It makes like that's what we that really is. It really puts perspective onto what the ups and downs, especially the downs. The downs are sometimes harder to talk about.
Totally.
Yeah, but very important for the end result.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my biggest struggles in life, and it kind of was inside of that time I was really indecisive and figuring out who I was and thinking I was doing everything wrong. I really struggled with alcohol from the time I was 18 until maybe 24. And at first it came from a place of like, I get attention when I do this. I'm fun. I'm exciting. Like people think I'm hilarious when I drink. And so it was really that seeking of attention and validation from other people externally. And it turned into like, the more I drank, the more mistakes I made, whether that was with other people in college, partying. I got into some really dangerous situations that led to some traumatic experiences. And after that, really in a cycle, like a vicious cycle of numbing, coping, almost self-harm. And I was so ashamed of who I was and knew that that was not me at a soul level. Like at my soul, at my core, is very like vibrant and exciting and fun and free. And I think that's what I had started with at 18. Like that piece was still there, but the alcohol really dimmed my light. And I was so desperate to get out of it, but didn't know how. That's all I knew. And so insecure, really, really struggled with anxiety. There was a point where I was so depressed that I really wished I wasn't alive. And having that perspective was like, in a way, kind of valuable because I knew that I wasn't done living. Like I knew that there was something more. And once I moved to Colorado, it was like, what else is there? I'm searching, I'm yearning. And I was still partying. I was still kind of in that familiar feedback loop, that thing that I was comfortable with in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I was extroverted and I was meeting people that were curious about me without the alcohol. And it took a lot of staying in the conversation, working with a therapist, working with a coach to continue digging beneath all of that stuff and to look at myself from the inside out rather than just like treating the symptoms. And like a hero's journey, really, I wanted to get to the root of everything. I didn't want to just like say I was an alcoholic. I'm not saying that that's the route everyone should take. Like, I know some people really get so much from AA and their journey is that. And my journey has been, what's at the root of this behavior and why am I so miserable? Because
was there a specific trigger or like a specific event that made you like look at your drinking and you were like, okay, I should really analyze this?
Yeah. So one of them was I was hit by a car. Yeah. I mean, there you go.
Jeez.
That was a huge one. I was really, really drunk and I got hit by a car. And being that close to something that could have gone way worse, like I basically was unharmed. I had a small concussion, but like that was it. And I looked at that event like that was the closest to death I've ever been. And it was really like I'm ready for the other side of this. And this feels like rock bottom. So
was the world kind of nudging you?
Oh yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, time to do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, but tell us more about and kind of what did that lead to and how did you get out of that?
Yeah, so that led to really some intense looking at myself, like you said, and being willing to go into the shadows. And I took some personal growth and development programs that kind of catapulted me into a new reality and my willingness to go there. I was so passionate about leveling up in life and kind of leaving behind all of that muck that was just on my back and this shame about who I was and what I had been through and even being hit by a car or the other traumatic things that had happened when I was drunk. And it really took some forgiving myself. Like I forgive myself for drinking too much or drinking so much that this happened. And I started to really be there for me and the younger parts of myself that I was not there for at the time, like the little me who really needed some parenting in the moment or like some compassion or some love. And what she got was shame and guilt. And like, that doesn't feel good. So it took that healing and that really the willingness to go deep and kind of carve out the hard parts to find all of that gold and the freshness and like the freedom from my past.
Forgiveness is very powerful.
It is. Yeah.
Not always easy.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I've had the pleasure of getting to see you do some of that work and stepping into like the powerful, amazing, beautiful human that you are. And I loved you and adored you. And you really had opened up and stepped into what it is to be powerful as yourself. And I wonder, like, is there like something that was pivotal towards like becoming the most powerful version of yourself?
I mean, for me, there was a difference between saying, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, and it not happening. And then going in and being willing to love the parts that were harder to love, like the memories that were hard for me to be with. And like to know that when I was drunk and blacked out, I said something mean to someone. And like, I learned how to love that person too. And I think that's what it took. It was like I had a door in my house that was always closed and it had all this junk in it. And I actually went into that. I opened that door and sifted through the things that were scary, the memories that haunted me and came out with a cleaner closet. Like it was more organized and it had been tended to and loved on. And like, that's what had me come out where I wasn't avoiding any of that stuff anymore. And it's ongoing too. Like there are some things from my past that I'm still kind of like, that's like sizzly today. And I guess it's an invitation to look at that and like give love to that as well.
Yeah. Well, you didn't say any subjects were off. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey of coming out as bisexual?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. This is even a brave conversation in itself. And that was a whole new layer of self-love and acceptance of who I was. because I had so many considerations about what my sexual identity was. Like, I don't need to share this. My parents would freak out. Like, this is just for me, not for anyone else. And I always had this like attraction to women and feeling like they're so beautiful and oh my gosh, but I shouldn't do that. Like, that's off limits. And I experimented with dating women, and I got so present to how much love is available. Because before that, I had this story that men don't love in the way that I need to be loved. And like, vulnerability in a relationship is not available. And I dated this woman who was so beautiful and caring, and we cried together all the time. And what I got was like, I'm the one who's been thinking that people aren't capable of love. And what I saw in that was like a withholding of my own love toward myself. So I think while I'm in a heteronormative relationship now, I'm dating a man, and he's like so comfortable being vulnerable, and we have the most exciting and expansive love I've ever had. There's a piece of my identity that I get really lit up by, that I have permission to be attracted to whoever I'm attracted to. And that full expression of who I am is dazzling and has me love myself even more.
That's really beautiful.
Really cool.
Yeah, that one was sticky to get through.
Oh yeah. And I remember how expressive you were when you were sharing about it. And I knew it took so much courage and bravery to share that on the internet and to share it with your family and to be open about it. So thank you for sharing that here.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. And like creating an opportunity for me to share myself, because I think that's one of the things I want to mention of how to find your authentic success. Sharing.
I think this conversation is so perfect because it fits into something you said at the beginning, is that there's a box that we think exists, but so much stuff is outside of that box. And it's always okay to just not fit into this box that's been the standard definition of whether it's the American dream or anything. So I just think not fitting into a certain box and being okay with it is the moral or the continuing story that I keep hearing. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add even that my ability to look at myself as an evolving human, and like who I'm attracted to changes on a daily basis. And really, I'm still discovering, like, am I pansexual? Am I bisexual? Am I just queer? Who knows? And I think it's kind of exciting to like remove the sides of that box and open up just what there is to discover and what's meant to bubble up. And that doesn't really mean I am categorized in a certain identity. Like I am a cosmic blend of whatever I decide,
all stardust.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
it.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay. All right. We're going to take a really quick break and hear from our sponsors. And then we're going to come back. We're going to hear some tips from Faith and how you can find her out in the world. Be right back. This is a podcast for anyone looking to improve their personal, professional, or family life.
We craft these episodes so you can learn from or relate to our experiences and opinions.
And we'd love to hear more about you. So if you're interested in connecting with us further,
as well as other like-minded individuals,
we recommend checking out our creatively named Facebook group, Colorado Entrepreneurs.
You don't have to be from Colorado or be an entrepreneur to join, but it doesn't hurt.
Just go to facebook.com/groups/Colorado Biz, that's BIZ, and send us a join request.
Or check the link in the description and show notes below.
Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
Welcome back, everybody. So we've had some exciting stories. And so I was thinking we could finish up. A big thing you had touched on earlier as well, Faith, is authentic success. And I think that is such a great phrase because I think it's what we're all striving for and going into. Can you give us some tips? Like, what are your 3 top tips to move towards or figure out how to get to or to find your own version of authentic success?
Yeah. So the first few things that come to mind, one of them is getting to a quiet place and being willing and available to listen to yourself and your intuition above anyone else. Because it can be valuable to have perspectives and to ask people for advice or what their success has been in life. But really, the most potent and powerful information comes from within. And I had this exercise when I was in a yoga teacher training where we were instructed to sit and wait for our thoughts to stop reaching for the right answer. Like, even for how I'm feeling today, like, how am I feeling today? And your thoughts are like, oh, I'm feeling happy or sad, or what do I want to get to the right thing? And then it's like, nope, just keep listening, because it will bubble up. Like, your intuition is so wise and it will give you the answer you're looking for. So whether that's with your career, your relationship, your sexuality, your next move in life, listen to yourself. And then with that, my next tip would be to practice radical acceptance, where, like I mentioned earlier, those memories that come up, or the thing you said to someone that you wish you hadn't, or the things you feel ashamed or guilty about, practice showing compassion, giving yourself some grace, because that self-resentment or that make wrong is so crippling. And yeah, so like, try that on. It's not always easy, and it can be really, really beautiful. And then the third one I would say is to practice sharing yourself bravely, even like I did today with a question that I wasn't ready for about my own sexuality. Like, be willing to share yourself and continue to declare who you are ongoingly as that cosmic blend of stardust that we talked about.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all three. And I was just thinking about what you said about the power of just sitting in the quiet. And I think so many people are, I mean, I know I even was opposed to meditation at points in my life. And it's like truly 2 minutes of meditation a day, maybe medication too. I don't know. 2 minutes of meditation a day can make a difference. And it really is the act of like allowing yourself to stop grabbing those thoughts. And I don't know if I've ever heard it that way, but I think that stillness that can come when you train yourself to just like quiet a little bit, you can get so much from your own mind that you didn't even know.
Yeah.
There.
I'm glad you put it that way, because it really is a practice. Like, all three things that I mentioned are sometimes things that won't latch after the first try. And I am someone who, I don't like meditation because I get distracted and I feel like I'm not doing it right or whatever. But if you frame it in like, I'm just going to listen to myself today, and I'm going to try again tomorrow, and I'm going to try again tomorrow, and it didn't go the way I thought, and I'm going to try again tomorrow. Like, that's what practice is all about. And before long, something starts to come through.
And I think that ties into the radical forgiveness as well. Like, if you're trying something and it's not working, especially meditation, not getting mad about it and just forgiving even in that moment.
Totally.
Oh, it takes time. Life is a practice.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's all about repetition and doing things over and over when you want to improve something. So I do love that. It is a reminder that we need to be patient with ourselves.
I love that.
I also think your third tip, sharing, is something that is really important, because a lot of the time people are, like, they feel shame or they feel afraid to share something that's authentic and something that like is true to them. And that's another reason I really like this podcast, and even the medium of like TikTok and social media and how things have been changing. I think sharing is so powerful, because so often, again, we feel so lonely and so isolated that we don't feel like we can share. And I think it's so important to be able to do so and to be able to feel safe to do so.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, and I love that Brave Life Ventures is a place for 20-somethings to go share with each other. And I wanted to bring back up, for those of you that have not listened to part 1, go do it, learn a little bit about what Faith is up to in the world. But also, we want to share, because Faith has her own podcast, and we want to talk to you a little bit about that. So will you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yes. So we began recording a few months ago, and we designed it as a talk show podcast. So what we do is we bring on guests who want to share themselves and want to have brave conversations. And we create topics that really give access to that. Like, for example, we talked about redesigning the American dream, or we talked about money, There's a conversation about mental health. There are just things that are up, especially for our generation, that we want to hear from people in their 20s about. So we release a podcast once a month, the first Friday of every month usually, and we look for guests to contribute and be part of conversations like these that really elevate that sense of normality, that we can have brave conversations like these and really create the space, not wait for it.
Awesome. So to all of our listeners who are in their 20s, if you have a story, you should definitely reach out to Faith. Where is the best places to reach you, Faith, to find you on the internet?
Yeah, so my Instagram is one place. My personal account is Faith is a Poet.
Mm-hmm.
We also have an Instagram page called Brave Life Venture. It actually doesn't have an S on the end, Brave Life Venture. And you'll find Andrea Cummings is one of the co-founders. Susanna Camphora is the other one. And then myself, Faith Lee. We're all on there. And then, yeah, that's really the best place to reach us right now.
And we'll link to all that in the show notes for sure.
Yes, definitely. And I wish you would have corrected me earlier because I had it as Brave Life Venture. And then I was like, no, it has an S on it. I don't know why I convinced myself it had an S on it.
No
Brave
problem.
Life Venture.
Yes. Yeah. And our podcasts are on Spotify. So you can look up Brave Life Talk Show and that will come out.
Okay, excellent. So we can find you at Brave Life Talk Show on Spotify.
Yeah.
We will have links in the show notes to all of the places that you can find Faith.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks so much for being here, for joining us on our podcast here. I'm always excited to have friends of Teresa here. She has quality people in her life.
She really does. She attracts people like moth to a flame. Thank you both so much. I've gotten so much from being here with you today and really just delighted to share space and keep creating alongside. So thank you so much for who you are.
Thank you. It has been a true pleasure to have you. Everyone, please go check out Faith on Instagram at Brave Life Venture. Check out part 1 of this podcast to hear a little bit more about her. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. Until next time.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This has been the conclusion of our 2-part series.
And hey, congrats for making it here.
If you didn't happen to catch part 1, just go back to the previous episode to get the full story.
It was a really good one.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and/or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty.
Asking for help and admitting that we don't know
what the fuck we're doing either.